Let's bring on our good friend Mike McAllister to talk Syracuse basketball, and we'll get a little Syracuse football in. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think they've attempted between the Houston and the Hofstra game like 43 free throws or something like that. I had a friend of mine, I don't know if he wants me to call him out by name, so I won't, but I had a friend of mine tell me this. They've attempted 43 free throws, and they made like 20 of them or something, right? So they're below 50% in those two games. If they had made 23 instead, so just 3 more out of 43, it's still a horrible percentage,
right,
but they've got 2 more wins.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is true. All right, what was the most disappointing thing from Saturday from your point of view?
The perimeter defense. I think we know that this team in the half court isn't a great team. They're not overly efficient. They're at their best offensively when they're able to run and get out and transition and create opportunities off of that. And the half-court offense has kind of just been so-so for most of the year, in my opinion. But they've been really good defensively in almost every game, basically barring the second half against Iowa State. And in this game, I understand that Hofstra shot better from 3 than they had all season. They were, basically 67%, I think, or something like that. I think they had 18 three-point attempts, and it felt like 15 of them were wide open with no one near them. And so the fact that they couldn't identify the shooters and kept giving them open looks from the outside, that was the most disappointing part of it to me. I'm not exactly sure where the disconnect was, whether, Coach Autry said after the game that they didn't do anything different or they didn't do anything that surprised them. And so if you're following the game plan, you would have thought at some point that you would have identified shooters, and they just didn't. And that bit them after they took the 1-point lead, and Kyan Anthony got sucked inside and was inside in the lane, and they kicked it out to the corner where he should have been. And guy gets a wide open 3 and hits it to give him the lead that they would ultimately never give up. That was, I think, the most disappointing from a Syracuse's performance standpoint, not bringing the officiating into it.
Yeah, just to prove your point, Syracuse was up there in the 3-point defense, going into that game. The game before 29%, last 3 36.8, but that includes 66.7.
Yeah, they made 12 of 18.
Yeah, that is outrageous. That can't happen. That was the biggest thing. Mike, what stops teams from just playing zone now?
Well, Syracuse is going to have to prove that they can beat it, to be honest. That's the best way to do it. So how do you do that? I heard Pat call into, I believe it was the post game, and he had mentioned that, he thought that they should have had Tyler Betsy out there instead of Sadiq White to combat the zone with his shooting. I think that's an option. Another option is you get Donnie Freeman back. You can put him in the high post. I think that helps a lot. Not having him really hurts what they can do from a rotation standpoint, sort of switching between him and Tyler Betsy or playing those two together. Or even playing him, if you decide you wanted to go a little bit smaller, playing him at the 5, although I wouldn't want to take William Kyle off the floor. So I think that's the biggest thing is you have to have someone that can play at the high post. I'm not sure teams are going to respect Sadiq White's shooting ability enough to come out on him if he is playing there. Whereas I think if you've got a Tyler Betsy or a Donnie Freeman there, I think that's a little bit different. Syracuse is going to have to figure something out, because if they don't, teams are going to continue to do that, and it's going to frustrate them all year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Teams are going to play them zone until they can figure it out, and they're going to have to figure it out. One concern, I think, from the starting 5 perspective is the play of Nathan George. And, we keep talking about, we say, all right, what's up with Nathan George? And against the lesser competition, he's been very good. Against the better competition, he struggled. You look at his performance on Saturday, he had 6 assists, only 1 turnover, but didn't make a shot. He wasn't out there in the crunch time minutes. What do you make of Nathan George, and are you concerned at all about him and him running the show at the moment?
I am, because although I don't think it's nearly to this level, it just is giving me some PTSD from the conversations we were having last year at the point guard position. And again, I think that he's played significantly better so far this year than what they got out of Jaquan Carlos last year. But just similar conversations is that when Carlos came in, you had a certain level of expectation for him. George comes in, you have a certain level of expectation for him. It's not living up to that. And it feels like you're kind of having those same thoughts, feelings, conversations. Now, I think George is a better player. I think he's got more potential than what Carlos brought. And I think the biggest key for him is defensively. If he can be okay defensively, even if he's not quite what we thought he was offensively, it still gives you enough with this team, I think, to win a lot of games. The biggest problem for me on Saturday, I didn't think he was playing that well defensively. I thought he missed some rotations, missed some assignments, and that led to some guys getting open looks. And, there were just some other points where he's sort of dribbling the ball around and not really doing anything with it. I think he's got to kind of get out of his own head and just go back to playing basketball.
Yeah, and the comments are coming up in the chat about wasn't he under the weather? Yes, he was sick against St. Joe's. It stands to reason that 48 hours later he still wasn't feeling well, but it's been more than just recently. It's really been, he's been very inconsistent throughout the season to this point.
Him not being on the floor for that last play is a head scratcher to me. He's the best point guard you got in that situation, I think.
See, yeah, but I mean, again, go back to the Houston game. Like the ball was in his hands, and he didn't handle it well, right? I mean, he didn't go to the basket until 3 seconds left. They get a shot off late. It ends up getting blocked.
This was coming out of a timeout, though.
No, I know. I understand that, but you still had the opportunity to put him in the game there if you wanted to, and Red chose not to. I don't know that that's head scratching. I think that was, again, he was 0 for 4 from the field. Hasn't played well lately. I don't know. Mike, what do you think?
He's your best distributor. I think the offense runs more smoothly when he's in the game, honestly.
Yeah, I understand the wanting him to be out there because he's your point guard, and I do think that the offense runs better overall when he's out there as opposed to when he's not. That said, if you put him in at that point, he had been sitting for so long. I think that's a tough spot to put him in. All things considered, the plan was to get the ball to JJ and let him try to create something. And what I didn't understand, the most baffling part of that whole sequence to me was it looked like initially JJ went into the backcourt and was open for a pass back there, which you can throw back there. And Kyan didn't throw it. I don't know if he saw something or was nervous he turned it over or just didn't like something, but that was a bit baffling. He didn't make that initial pass to get it to JJ in the backcourt. But then once he got the ball into William Kyle, basically other than Kyan trying to fight to get the ball, everyone else stood there. And that was a concern for me as well, which is I understand having one thing drawn up, but there needs to be some level of understanding of what happens if the other team takes that away. Here are the other things we can do. And the fact that you had, JJ kind of hopping around over there, not really doing much to try to get the ball, and then 2 players standing over in the corner, not moving at all, I didn't think that was great. There needed to be some other sense of urgency other than Kyan just trying to fight for it.
JJ's got to get the ball. He does. I mean, if he, especially if Nate George is not in the game there, he has to get the ball.
And I want to ask Red that when we have him on Thursday. Like everybody, like I saw on Twitter, look, what did they draw? Why would they draw this up? I don't know what the play was, at the end of the game there, but JJ's got to get the ball.
He's got to get the ball, and there's plenty of time to make something happen. And to Kyan's credit, he went and got the ball, and then he tried to make a play, and he made the right play. He got fouled, and they just didn't call it.
Yeah, William Kyle's got to get rid of the ball. Like even in the zone, just the ball doesn't move fast enough. Like I get the spacing, the ball just doesn't move fast. They were getting the ball at the line to Sadiq, and he would look at every player before making the pass. If you're beating a zone, that ball's got to move quicker.
Yeah, that's they're second guessing themselves against the zone. They got to get better against the zone. Obviously, we've talked about the free throws. We haven't mentioned. We should at least mention the fact that William Kyle he's a stud. He made some big free throws in that game. Just I know we haven't talked many positives on this show today, Mike, but your thoughts on the way William Kyle's been playing?
He's been playing great. I like the fact that was he 6 for 9 from the free throw line in that game or something like that.
Well, he's three for 4 in that particular game, but the last 2 games he's gotten better between St. Joe's and this Hofstra game.
Yeah.
3 for 4 against Hofstra, yeah. 6 for 9 against St. Joe's, yeah.
So if the fact that he was 3 for 4 and you're still, he's your worst free throw shooter essentially is what you expect, and then he goes 3 for 4 and you're still a poor free throw shooting team overall on the day is even more baffling. But, if he can get his free throw shooting even up to like 60%, it kind of takes that Hacka Kyle away a little bit, but he's been so good. I mean, he gives you so much on both ends of the floor, and I haven't seen any dip in his level of effort in any game this year. He goes all out on almost every play. It's extremely impressive. His motor, he gives them so much in transition. He's a much better shot blocker than I thought he was going to be. He's a good rebounder. I wouldn't say he's a great rebounder, but he's a good rebounder. And I've been most impressed that when they've stepped up the level of competition, he's going against guys that are supposed to be, bigger than him or more highly touted than him or whatever. He has more than held his own. He's been extremely impressive. He's been a huge bright spot for them so far this season.
All right, one more basketball question, then I do want to ask you a little bit about football, but just kind of where does this team go from here? They've got 3 bad teams coming up. Obviously, that Clemson game looms large on New Year's Eve. How do you think they bounce back from this?
Well, I think you got to win these next 3 games pretty convincingly. If you do that and then you go into the Clemson game, you can figure out a way to win that game at home. I think you sort of feel like you've kind of gotten yourself back on track a little bit. The net ranking, I understand it's in the 90s now, and part of the flaw in the net ranking is that a game like this against Hofstra, there's every possibility that Syracuse could have a strong remainder of the regular season, and the Hofstra is sort of a blip on that stands out as it doesn't belong with the rest of the resume type of situation, and yet that will hurt them more than 4 or 5 really good wins will help them. That's always a flaw in the net to me. It's part of the reason why I don't like it. I still prefer the old RPI, but that's my old man yelling at a cloud for the day. But you win these next 3 games, you win that game against Clemson, and then you give yourself a shot going forward. I mean, they've got a good start to the ACC schedule after that Clemson game, where if you can find a way to get a win there, you could end up rattling off 6, 7, 8 wins in a row. And now all of a sudden, if you're 14-4 or even, 13-5, something like that, you feel like you've given yourself a shot still to make a run at the NCAA tournament. So they've still got everything in front of them. The net ranking will figure itself out if you keep winning games. You got to win these next 3 convincingly and then beat Clemson to set yourself up for having that opportunity.
All right, let's talk football quickly. The latest guys in the portal, Emmanuel Ross, Jalen Hornsby, Jakari Williams all entering the portal. Thoughts on, a few of these guys leaving the program?
Yeah, Jakari Williams, not really a surprise. I think once he didn't play last year, given all the issues that they had at quarterback, kind of the writing was on the wall there. But got his degree, which, sets him up for the rest of his life, so that's a good thing. Credit to him for sticking around for a couple of years when he could have left 2 years ago, and he didn't. So credit to him for sticking around and setting himself up for the rest of his post-football life. But Hornsby and Ross, a little disappointed, I guess, would be the right word, just because, from a Syracuse perspective, because I think they're talented players that have the ability to contribute down the road. The problem is they know they're talented, they know they've got a high ceiling, and they want to play. And right now the wide receiver room is one of the best on the roster. They've still got, in theory, they're starting 3 guys from this past season, barring one of them entering the portal that we're not expecting at this point. And they've got Calvin Russell and Amari Goff coming in as well. And who knows if they end up grabbing somebody in the transfer portal. And they got Tyshawn Russell coming back. So there's a lot of talent in that wide receiver room, so it's not a surprise that they're losing a couple of guys from it.
All right, Mike. As always, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike McAllister joining us here.